Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai.
Everybody has to sing a little bit. Kirtan is Can I have the Kirtan? Yeah, wonderful voice, wonderful tune also. Now it's difficult. Huh? Yeah, I don't play that. But keep it here, some other person may play. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Charine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora. Radha Krishna Prana Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora Jivane marane gati ar nahi mora Kalindira kule keli kadambe ravana Ratana vedira upara bosavo dujana Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora Shama Gauri Ange Dibo Chandane Raganda Chamara Dula Bhokabe Eri Mukha Chandra O Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora Gantiya Mala Tirmala Dibyodo Nahara Gale Adara Tuliya Dibo Karpura Tambule Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora Lalita Vishakadi Yata Saki Vrinda Ajnaya Karibo Seva Charanarvinda Radha Krishna Prana Mora Yugala Kishora Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasera Anudasa Seva Abhilasha Kore Narottam Dasa Radha Krishna Prana Mora युगल किशोर राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोर युगल किशोर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भव तुम्हें ओ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान O Nitai Goranga Jayo, Nitai Goranga Jayo, Gaur Hari. Jayo Sachinandana, Jayo Sachinandana, Jayo Sachinandana, Gaur Hari. Jayo Sachinandana, Jayo Sachinandana, Jayo Sachinandana, Gaur Hari. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev. Jai Om Vishnupada Parvarashacharya Stotra. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। गंगा यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय। श्याम भक्त वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंद all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to Guru and Gauranga, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Praskatya Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hare Bol. So today I wanted to speak about something that is pertinent to all of us, and also express my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation of our dear devotees that are parting or going to Texas, the Lone Star State. And I wanted to talk about Radhika Gopinath and his very good wife, Padma Devi Dasi. So, Prabhupada writes a letter on 7th of September 1975 to a devotee named Mahavirya Das, and he says, the innocent people are being dragged from the villages and exploited in the cities But in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna recommends them to remain where they are and produce grains. Anadbhavanti bhutani. Grow your food, eat sumptuously, and chant Hare Krishna. This is real life. If we establish such projects all over India, we shall be the proprietor of India. Similarly, in the USA, and if USA and India join together in such Krishna consciousness projects, meaning farm projects, then the whole world will be paradise. Krishna provides everything, but we mismanage it. Even in this condemned world, he has provided everything complete. He is so perfect. Krishna wants us to pass on our days here in Krishna consciousness and then go back home, back to Godhead. This village program is for the ordinary class of people, and for the intellectuals, we have got our books. We are not lacking in anything. And then in another letter written to Mr. Goelji, or Goel, and he says, your proposal for cooperation with ISKCON is welcome. I am very much appreciate your proposal. The mass problem at present moment in India is actually a food problem. I have therefore decided to start some village organization program. Namely, people should be invited to live in the village, produce their own foodstuff, grains, fruits, and vegetables, maintain a sufficient number of cows to get a large quantity of milk, produce their own cloth, eat sumptuously for keeping fit in health, and then they can regularly sit down and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I shall arrange for the irrigation of the land, and the people living there should give their labor for their own food and clothing, and then chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and cultivate Krishna consciousness. Besides that, our men should go from village to village with Sankirtana party, hold festivals, namely distribution of Bhagavat Prasadam, and induce people to chant and join with us in vibrating the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In India, there are not less than 95% villagers, and Mahatma Gandhi wanted this village organization. I think this is a solid program. The people must eat sumptuously, not voraciously, and make them fit to working and chanting. In this way, they will be purified and everything will be nicely organized. We require some men only like your good self to cooperate with this movement. The necessary things in this connection will surely be supplied by Krishna. Simply, we want some sincere worker like your honor. Up to date, I am working chiefly with my foreign assistants and disciples. In India, for them there is the language difficulty, otherwise they are ready to work in Indian villages also. Besides that, they have visa problems. Under the circumstances, I require immediately some willing, educated worker for this purpose. Okay, so then there's another very interesting letter to Yasomati Nandana Prabhu, who unfortunately has passed away, and 28th of November 1976. Before that, there's a letter to Kirtananda Swami in May 31st, 1975. And Prabhupada says, if you give the right protection to the cows, then they will give so much milk that the ground of New Vrindavana will be muddy with milk. European and American civilization will be finished on account of this sinful activity of killing cows. By the way, they kill a huge number of cows in Texas. Texas and California are the two places where the most cows are being killed in the United States. And you're moving there. Actually, one should not circumambulate when the deity is open. It is stated in the Nectar of Devotion. I think you can close the doors to the deity room during Tulsi Puja and then open them again afterwards. So he says, European and American civilization will be finished on account of this sinful activity of killing the cows. So then in a letter to Yasodamati Nandana, he writes, "You say we must have Goshala trust? That is our real purpose. Krishi Gorakshvanijam Vaishyakarma Swabhavajam. Where there is agriculture, there must be cows. That is our mission. Cow protection in agriculture. If there is excess, then trade. This is a no-profit scheme. For the agriculture, we want to produce our own food, and we want to keep cows for our own milk. The whole idea is that we are ISKCON, a community to be independent from outside help. This farm project is especially for the devotees to grow their own food, cotton also to make their own clothes, and keeping cows for milk and fatty products. Our mission is to protect our devotees from unnecessary heavy work, to save time for advancing in Krishna consciousness. This is our mission. So there's no question of profit, but if easily there are surplus products, then we can think of trading. Otherwise, we have no such intention. We want a temple, a Goshala, and agriculture. A community project. Jai Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai. A community project, as in Europe and America. We are making similar attempts in India in several places. Immediately, I'm going to Hyderabad to organize the farm project there. We have 600 acres. We have the permission from the government. There is no question of the ceiling. You may call the Goshala ISKCON Goshala and Farm Project Trust. And now he writes another letter. He says to Bhagavan Das in 1976, November 1976, he says, "Have there been rains in New Mayapur? There should at least be rains in our area. Yes. Increase the flowers. You have got sufficient space. Produce flowers, fruits, vegetables, and grains in ample quantities. We should be fully self-sufficient. I like New Mayapur very much." So, you see, over and over again, he's saying that we should be self-sufficient. We should not be so much into profit. We should at least maintain ourselves and attain self-sufficiency. Then in another letter, he writes, "We are developing a plan to be self-sufficient, namely to produce our food, grains, maintain cows for drinking milk, and weave cloth for garments. We have plans for erecting a magnificent international city based on this Vedic culture." So that's what he's doing, and that's what he wanted to be done in Mayapur. And now, in another letter to Hayagriva in June 14, 1968. Vrindavan does not require to be modernized because Krishna's Vrindavan is transcendental village. They completely depend on nature's beauty and nature's protection. The community in which Krishna preferred to belong was Vaishya community because Nanda Maharaja happened to be a Vaishya king or landholder, and his main business was cow protection. It is understood that he had 900,000 cows, and Krishna and Balaram used to take charge of them along with his many cowherd boyfriends, and every day in the morning he used to go out with his friends and cows into the pasturing grounds. So, if you seriously want to convert this new spot as New Vrindavan, I shall advise you not to make it very much modernized. But as you are American boys, you must make it just suitable to your minimum needs, not to make it too much luxurious, as generally Europeans and Americans are accustomed. Better to live there without modern amenities, but to live a natural, healthy life for executing Krishna consciousness. It may be an ideal village where the residents will have plain living and high thinking. For plain living, we must have sufficient land for raising crops, and pasteurizing grounds for the cows. If there is sufficient grains and production of milk, then the whole economic problem is solved. In fact, now, due to the very bad weather that we're having, the price of a bale of hay has gone from $15 a gallon to $40 a gallon. The new hay that's going to be harvested sometime this summer will be $40 a gallon, a bale. That means that many people won't be able to afford to feed their animals. Now, because we purchased a farm in Arlington, right now the grass in Arlington is 4 feet high. And it's going to be harvested in about 2 weeks, and it should make close to 200, 600-pound bales of hay for our cows. That means that we will save at least $40,000 to $50,000 this next year because we have our own. We have to pay for the person who's going to bale the hay, but still it'll be much, much cheaper than buying it. And eventually we will have the equipment and the know-how how to bale it ourselves. The equipment is a little expensive, but we will buy it. And there are different ways of harvesting hay, but the modern way is using using tractors and special equipment. It's nice if we could get away with that, but if you look at the weather that's been this so-called spring, look at it now. It's so it's very difficult to do things on a farm when there's constant rain. Very, very difficult. But we will survive. So Prabhupada says, you do not require any machines, cinema, hotels, slaughterhouses, brothels, nightclubs, all these modern so-called amenities. People in the spell of Maya are trying to squeeze out gross pleasure from the senses, which is not possible to derive to our heart's content. Therefore, we are confused and baffled in our attempt to enjoy eternal pleasure from gross matter. Actually, joyful life is on the spiritual platform. Therefore, we should try to save our valuable time from material activities and engage them for Krishna consciousness. But at the same time, because we have to keep our body and soul together to execute our mission, we must have sufficient, not extravagant, food to eat, and that will be supplied by grains, fruits, and milk. If you can develop this place to that ideal life, and the residents become ideal Krishna-conscious persons in that part of your country, I think not only many philosophically minded people will be attracted, but they will be benefited also. So far, I am personally concerned. So then he says, one can advance in transcendental life by the process of negating the general practice of materialistic life. The exact adjustment is in Vaishnava philosophy, which is called Yukta Vairagya, which means that we should simply accept the bare necessities of our material part of life and try to save time for spiritual advancement. This should be the motto of New Vrindavan. If you at all develop it to the perfectional stage, and I am always at your service to help you by practical suggestion and assistance also. And then he says, for the time being, if you actually want to develop an ideal ashrama, we must have sufficient land, and all other things will gradually grow. For raising crops from the land, how many men would be required? That we must estimate. And for herding the cows and feeding them, we must have sufficient pasturing ground to feed the animals all around. We have to maintain the animals throughout their life. We must not make any program for selling them to the slaughterhouse. That's why our Arlington farm is a cow sanctuary. We have our dairy farm in Whatcom County and our cow sanctuary in Arlington. So all the cows that are not milking, and all the bulls come to Arlington, and we will protect them till they die naturally. And we will also eventually train the bulls to do work and establish, making oil from special grains like mustard grains and so forth. And the cows will also plow if there's a necessity for it. I mean, the bulls will plow. The bulls will be our transportation, and we hope to make a large community in Arlington. And we'll go from to different houses with our bullock carts instead of using petroleum. So you see, what's going to come in the next couple of years is this. It was exactly what Prabhupada is writing about now. And he says, we must not make any program for selling the cows or bulls to the slaughterhouses. That is the way of cow protection. Krishna, by his practical example, taught us to give all protection to the cows, and that should be the main business of New Vrindavan. Vrindavan is also known as Gokula. Go means cows, and Kula means congregation. Therefore, the special feature of New Vrindavan will be cow protection, and by doing so, we shall not be loser. In India, of course, a cow is protected, and the cowherdsmen, they derive sufficient profit by such protection. Cow dung is used as fuel. Cow dung dried in the sunshine, kept in stock for utilizing them as fuel in the villages. They get wheat and other cereals produced from the field. There is milk and vegetables, and the fuel is cow dung. And thus, they are self-independent in every village. There are hand weavers for the cloth, and the country oil mill, consisting of a bull walking in circle round two big grinding stones attached with yoke. We're going to buy that. We're going to import that from India. Consisting of a bull walking in a circle and pulling turning two grinding stones attached with a yoke, and it grinds the oil seeds into oil. The whole idea is that people residing in New Vrindavan may not have to search work outside. Arrangements should be such that the residents should be self-satisfied. That will make an ideal ashram. The less we are anxious for maintaining our body and soul together, the more we become favorable for advancing in Krishna consciousness. So everyone now is working really hard just to maintain the body and soul together, and have a place to sleep, and then have washing machines, and have this thing and that thing, and cars and credit cards and so many things. It's confusing, and it's taxing all the vital energy of our devotees. This is not what Prabhupada wanted. Now you're hearing what Prabhupada wanted, right? So the question is, are we going to do it? Or are we going to remain prisoners of Maya, just working to make paper money? Paper money actually has no real value, especially fiat money. In the 1970s, Nixon canceled the backing up of the American dollar with gold. That is also cheating. But because they over-cheated, they realized that they could never have enough gold to back up all the money that they're printing. So they said, from now on, we're not backing it up with gold. We're just backing it up with your confidence in us. That's called fiat money. And when you come to fast forward to today, where the confidence of the people in the United States in the government of the United States is the lowest it has ever been in history. The lowest that's ever been. And you're seeing all kinds of advertisement. Get out of the stock market. Buy gold, because a big crash is coming. Well, the crash has already started. And what happens when there's a crash? You have people like Crazy Joe who force the printing of money that's not backed up with anything. and therefore you have inflation. So right now you have out of control inflation in the United States. This is the beginning of the end, unless there's a major change. Plus you have a huge amount of violence taking place now, especially in places like Texas. You just had the massacre of 20 kids in a school, and there's all the time there's people getting killed around the United States now by guns and different ways of killing. Then also you have food prices skyrocketing, gas price skyrocketing, and you have a broken supply chain where you have to wait a long time to get things that you need, spare parts for cars, spare parts for this, for that. Beware. What Prabhupada predicted is beginning to happen. It's the breakdown of the American society, morally and also financially. So, Prabhupada writes another letter to his female disciple Himavati. He says, "Teaching girls to sew nicely is also a very good idea. Take some Indian samples from Purushottama and try to make exactly like that, so that we may make very good profit for the society. Our society requires millions of dollars for propaganda work, but Krishna has made us financially poor. I think it is good to remain financially poor, because always we shall be able to pray to Krishna, asking his help to execute his service." So see, Prabhupada did not really want our devotees to be rich. He prefers, let me read it again. "I think it is good to remain financially poor, because always we shall be able to pray to Krishna, asking for his help to execute his service. If all of a sudden we become very financially strong, Maya may dictate to us for sense enjoyment, and we may fall a prey to her tactics. Therefore, to remain poor is one of the qualifications for advancing in Krishna consciousness." Let me read that again. "Therefore, to remain poor is one of the qualifications for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Our predecessors, the Goswamis, they voluntarily gave up everything for advancement in Krishna consciousness. We do not require any money for our personal account. We shall always be happy with anything Krishna is happy to supply us for maintenance. But for the preaching purposes, we can accommodate to receive all the riches of the world. So let us try with sincerity, and Krishna will help us in the matter of our advancing the cause of Krishna consciousness." So Prabhupada, when he says, but for the preaching purposes, we can accommodate to receive all the riches of the world. So what does that mean exactly? Well, Prabhupada explained that in another letter. He said, we should make $100,000 a day, or even $1 million a day, and before the day is over, we should spend it all to spread Harinam, Sankirtan, and book distribution, and also making temples. He said we should spend it all. He didn't say we should put it in the bank. Now, there was one leader of the movement in Germany. He was a very clever person, and he made a huge amount of money by advertising that every penny that they would collect would go to feed poor people in India. And there's pictures of children starving in India, and beggars, and people without arms and legs on a little platform with wheels, and begging in the street. And they had all these pictures that from Calcutta, and it looked as if the people in India are starving, and there was always this phrase, the starving Indians, right? So he collected millions of dollars and didn't send one penny to India. What happened? The government of Germany seized all the bank accounts of that big yatra and never gave it back. And they went to court, and they tried to fight the government, and they lost. And Prabhupada was extremely upset, and because that money they collected was supposed to go to India to feed poor people, and none of it did. And therefore, it was taken away from them. It was millions of dollars. Right? This is a true story. So we see, if you earn $1 million during the day and spend it before night to spread Krishna consciousness, then the next day you'll make $2 million. Krishna will give you $2 million, and it'll become $4 million, and become $40 million. Why? Because it's being used in the service of Krishna. Now I'm going to read something very interesting from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Two very interesting points that are made here. And it says, just find the right page. Okay, anyway, let me read the first thing, then I'll come to the second point. So, it says about Krishna, while herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. And it says in the purport, as he grew to 6 and 7 years old, the Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing grounds. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows, and according to Vedic economics, one is considered to be a rich man by the strength of his store of grains and the number of cows. With only these two things, cows and grain, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. Wow, look what happened. Gandhi wanted this, and Nehru went the other direction and industrialized India, and now people are struggling. Previously, 200 years ago, Prabhupada says, there were no factories in India, and the people were happy, and India was a very wealthy country. Why did the Muslims invade India? Why did the British take over India? Because it was a rich country, and they raped it. They pillaged it, and they took as much wealth as they could from India. And then all of a sudden, India got the reputation as a place where there's starving people. You see, so India was very, very wealthy previously. The Europeans were always coming to India, buying spices and bringing them back to the West, and so forth. And it was a very opulent place, and people were happy. Okay, so with only these two things, cows and grain, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things that are not needed. Lord Krishna, as the teacher of human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community, or the Vaishyas, should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. According to Smriti regulation, the cow is the mother and the bull the father of the human being. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns for the children, just as the bull tills the land to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother, or the bull and the cow. It is mentioned here that the beautiful cows and bulls were of various checkered colors, red, black, green, yellow, ash, etc. And because of their colors and healthy, smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivening. Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friends such transcendental pleasure that they would forget all the talks of the Brahmananda, meaning the impersonal Brahman, which is so praised by the impersonalists. These cowherd boys, as will be explained by Sukadeva Goswami, were living entities who had accumulated heaps of pious activities and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person and were hearing his transcendental flute. The Brahma Samhita 530 confirms the Lord's blowing of his transcendental flute, and it says, Venum Kvanantam, etc. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who plays on his flute, who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud. Although his bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cupids, these are the special features of the Lord. Okay, so this is the real life that Prabhupada is espousing, that Krishna himself wants. But do we want it? That's the question. You should ask yourself tonight. Do we actually want this? And now, one other important purport. The Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strengths of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows, and also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus, he advised his father to perform worship of Go, meaning the pasturing land and the cows, with the help of learned brahmanas. So, the worshipping of Go means you worship what is in relationship to Krishna. What is in relationship with Krishna? It's the pasturing ground for the cows, and it's the cows themselves. This is the way to use your financial wealth, according to Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 32. Therefore, it is advised, since Krishna is the teacher of everyone, the Lord also taught his father, Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj was a well-to-do landholder and owner of many cows, and as was the custom, he used to perform yearly worship of Indra, the king of heaven, with great opulence. This worship of the demigods by the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature, just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. The demigods are servants of the Lord, deputed to look after the management of various activities of universal affairs. Therefore, it is advised in the Vedic scriptures that one should perform yagyas to appease the demigods. But one who is devoted to the Supreme Lord has no need to appease the demigods. Worship of the demigods by common people is an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but it is not necessary. Such appeasement is generally recommended for material gains only. As we have already discussed in the second canto of this literature, one who admits the supremacy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Krishna, does not need to worship the secondary demigods. Sometimes being worshipped and adored by less intelligent living beings, the demigods become puffed up with power and forget the supremacy of the Lord. This happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to the king of heaven, Indra. He therefore asked Maharaj Nanda to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and to use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhana. There it is. Use the money to worship the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhana. By this act, Lord Krishna taught human society, as he has instructed in the Bhagavad Gita also, that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all their results. That will bring about the desired success. The Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to the cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land instead of squandering their hard-earned money. Squandering by buying so many different gadgets and material conveyances and Teslas and Lamborghini is not a type of pasta. It is a car, one of the most expensive cars in the whole world, right? The Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land instead of squandering their hard-earned money. That will satisfy the Lord. The perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in the sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, or one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. That's a law of nature right there. That one's community or one's nation or one's family will be judged by what they actually do to please Krishna. Haribol. So these are just a few concepts. There's a lot more to be said, but I'll stop there. Now, we're very sorry to see that our dear family is going to leave rainy Washington State and move to sun-baked, baked to a crisp black char, Texas. So we hope you'll be happy there. You can be Krishna conscious anywhere in the world if you follow it. And now we know how to follow it. We just heard from Prabhupada. So, but working like an ASS is not pleasing Prabhupada. Working just to make money to pay for houses, cars, insurance, and different amenities, washing machines, dryers, this thing, that thing, that's not life, especially if you're over 50 years old. You're supposed to tone all of that down. You're not supposed to have big mortgages that force you to work very hard. You're supposed to downsize all those things to a minimum. And husband and wife go on parikrama to holy places and learn to live simply and simple living, high thinking, always thinking about Krishna and preparing for the best moment of life. That's death. If you are thinking always of Krishna and you're trained to do that, especially in your vanaprastha period and sannyas period, and wife also is a sannyasi because she's completely renounced, then you'll be able to remember Krishna, and at the moment of life, you go back to Godhead. The moment of death, you go back to Godhead. So death is the best moment for a devotee and the worst moment for the materialist. Just see how different things are. It's the best moment for the devotee and the worst moment for the materialist. So you don't want to die being a materialist. You want to die being a devotee. And therefore, janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjana. One who understands the mysterious and transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and pastimes does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again, but goes immediately back to Godhead. That should be the goal of life. And how to do that? You have to train yourself, beginning as early as possible. Prahlad Maharaj started in the womb of his mother, thinking always about Krishna. And when he was born, he was always already a trained devotee. And at 5 years old, he was a preacher. He was preaching to the other kids in the class. He said, don't listen to any of the nonsense that the teachers are teaching about Big Bang, and we come from monkeys, and there's gender neutrality, and you have to have your set of pronouns, and the whole goal of life is sense gratification, because there's no God, and when you die, there's nothing. Therefore, you have to focus on the little bit of life you have to squeeze out as much sense gratification as you can, remain attached to your family, remain attached to your money, your house, your 401k, and work like a dog to maintain that. That is the material conception of life. And therefore, someone who lives like that is no better than and ASS. So you don't want to be AI or IT or ASS, because you will be in the wrong culture by doing that. Okay, so we're very sorry to see you go, but we know that you're very good devotees. You've done tremendous service for this temple, and we wish... okay, there's two families leaving. Okay, so Sesadeva Prabhu and Nanda Daini Devi Dasi. What? And Sahana. Okay. Aripo, sorry to see you go. You're always coming on Sankirtan. Where are you going? Dallas. Okay, Texas. Well, have a good time. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hari Bol.